Let's do it.
So, yeah, let's do it. We're live. Kenny, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, most welcome. Obviously, we've just met in Bali pretty much less than a week. So, I guess a good place to start off would be what has brought you here today?
Yeah, funny story is I decided to quit my job 4 months ago. I was working at an investment fund for a couple of months and, climbing the corporate ladder beforehand. And I just decided I just needed a new life change, circumstance change, environmental change. And I quit my job in 2 weeks. I packed my bags and took a one-way ticket to Phuket and never looked back.
Yes.
So ever since then, I've just been traveling around Southeast Asia and just meeting like-minded individuals who are on the same wavelength and pathway, into just discovering a lifestyle which actually fits who you are as an individual, not what society's already portrayed for you. Like myself, I've come from Sydney, Australia, right? So a lot of the things that you see growing up there for many years, it's the same narrative. Everyone's following the same routine, same lifestyle of, okay, we grow up, go to school, go to university, get a job, settle down, have a kid, get a mortgage, and then the next 40 years it's just on autopilot. And that was the main thing, or the main conceptual idea that I didn't really want to hold myself against to. So that's why I started traveling and wanted to, I guess, find answers and find a identity for myself which I can portray to this world.
Yeah. What? So you were in corporate for how many years then?
I would say maybe 6 or 7 years.
Okay, 6 or 7. Because that's some would say that's quite a good sort of foundation, if you like. Like you've worked, you've built up skills and that type of thing. So did you still sort of see the value in that? And when was the point that you thought enough is enough? Like, was there a specific moment, or how did that come about?
Yeah, there was a specific moment actually. So I was working into a superannuation fund straight out of university, and I was promised a job in business development. So interviewed people, the manager liked me, promised me the role and everything, and then 2 days afterwards, COVID happened. And so, before that, I was working for the 2 years I was working there. I was working non-stop, many hours, neglected my health, neglected my relationships, just to see where would this take me. And, when COVID happened, things changed. They're like, oh, look, the hiring process. We're putting a hold on the hiring process, but the job's still there for you. And so, I sat on my hands, waited 1, 2, 3 months, 9 months. And throughout that whole time, we were in lockdown. I was just by myself, isolated, and I'm just like thinking, this is not coming around. And this was a very disheartening moment because I put so much effort for the first 2 years, just coming out of college or university, just to be, I guess, put a step back. And that's when I realized, like, I don't want, like, any other individual to have that much control over me. I think a lot of people who go through this corporate lifestyle, it's a very political game, and you have to, as much as you're a good person, right? That's not how the corporate lifestyle works. It's all about, okay, I've got to take this guy down. How can I represent myself in the best manner possible, so that I get hired for the next role, and that means disheartening other people or
And disconnect from yourself as well, right?
correct. And I felt that disconnection, and I really started to evaluate these things during COVID, and I think that was a pinnacle moment where I started to just start diving further and further, doing like self-education and looking up on these things, and to really reevaluate, I guess, my own identity and psychology behind why I do things.
Yeah, because it feels like because the world was on pause, so suddenly you're not keeping up with the game, and then you have a chance to reflect, right?
Yes.
And I feel like in your instance, it's like, okay, this job isn't happening. Now I'm going to sort of focus on myself.
Yes.
So it kind of leads me to think, well, in the world that we live in, how many people just don't focus on themselves and what they truly want because they're stuck in that routine.
Mm.
It's like when I suddenly left my job, I was like, wow, it's such a shift because your whole world changes.
Correct. Yes.
I feel like, yeah, and suddenly your priorities are just so much clearer, and you're not, because when you're working sort of Monday to Friday and then it's like the weekend, you don't really have the time to be able to pursue anything, right? You're just like
Absolutely.
relaxation,
Mm-hmm.
socialize, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess in your case, you realize that by prioritizing your career, you put other stuff on hold,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
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 So how did you, coming out of COVID then, you sort of had a look intrinsically about yourself, what you wanted. Then what was the next steps after that? Because I feel like, especially COVID, so you have this big wave of, okay, we're going to come out soon, and then you come back, and then you come back in.
Yeah.
So how did that tie in with your journey?
Dude, I was just since neglecting my health in a lot of parts of my life, I was smoking, I was like 80 kilos, I wasn't going to gym consistently, I was sleep deprived constantly, and the only medication I'll have for this role was actually just going out on Friday nights. I'll just get blasted. I'll just go have so many drinks, hungover Saturday, Sunday recover, Monday start all over again. And I was just looking at these little decisions that I was making. Like it was actually subconscious, but it was just what everyone was doing around me, which seemed like it was the right coping mechanism. So I followed that.
Yes.
And so it was just these little things that I stopped doing, like smoking, starting to go to gym more, try to be more conscious about eating healthier, and also picking a journey that I want to go towards. And at the start of it, I was just throwing darts at everything. So I was like, I've always wanted to start my own business. So I've done different types of e-commerce businesses. I've done like eBay reselling. I've sold like all types of things, and they all failed. And it was even more disheartening to the point now I was like, oh crap, I'm not going anywhere with this. But then I realized, I think I was watching a podcast, I was watching a top podcast by Tim Ferriss with Naval Ravikant.
He's great. Yeah.
And yeah, this guy really changed the underlying thought pattern of how I thought about life. Because right now, right, I've had so many years climbing this same journey, right? What I'm doing now is actually coming off that mountain and finding a new mountain to climb. And so it's like learning all these things that I've already learned before and then just finding a new mountain to climb. And that's really difficult, especially when you've done it so many years, and you can feel the pain because you're like, oh, I've invested so much time and effort on this line that you don't really see you're trying to redirect yourself in a new path for yourself, and it was really tough, I'd say. And the first maybe 2 to 3 years I was just trying different businesses, ideas and stuff like that, and then I fell into the idea of trading, like trading the stock market, the forex, and that was even worse. But it was a very psychological game, because when you're trading the financial markets, it's all about fear and greed, and how you can manage your emotions. Like, I think a lot of people going into trading, they think, oh, I've got like all this IQ, I know all this knowledge and stuff, but then when it comes to like putting money on the line, it all goes out the window because they don't have the emotional, the EQ.
They can't detach from it, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
They can't detach it. And so since then, I've just been grinding to learn how to trade the financial markets, and I started working back into an investment fund because I was doing poorly. But then, I think last year and this year things have started to change, and that's been like what, maybe a 5 6 year journey. Not just focusing on the 9 to 5, but it was more like, okay, a redirection of how can I holistically design my life so that I can be the best individual for the next, foreseeable future, you know.
Yeah, I was just going to rewind as well because you mentioned there you were starting stuff like online e-commerce, that type of thing, and it just wouldn't stick, and you were trying it, right?
Yeah,
But I presume you don't regret trying that, and I presume you learned a lot in the process.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes to show how egotistical I was. Like really, I was a selfish, egotistical individual who thought had the answers for everything, right? But then when you start a business or you start anything, you need good people around you. You need experienced people around you. And I was too egotistical to go reach out and find like a mentor or something. That's why I failed. And I look back on those things. I'm like, okay, whatever business thing I failed, right? I look at as a learning opportunity. Not it was a failure, but also I look at it as a learning opportunity. So the next time I get a little smarter, a little bit smarter, a little bit smarter, and so now I look at these failures as nothing. They're not an emotionally dragging me down. It's more like, okay, I failed, so what? Next one. Let's pivot. Let's redirect ourselves so that we can be better the next time that we do try to start a business going forward.
And I wonder, did that sort of mindset of, okay, let's keep going, it's a learning opportunity, because that's what it is, right? It's never failure. It's always you're learning and you're doing something, right? I think that's always commended when people are just taking action, right? And that's like the first step. I wonder if you've always, how that mindset has developed, because I know people who have, they've maybe started an e-commerce thing and it just hasn't worked out, and they can really, and it's tough, and they really beat themselves up about it. And I think from there you have a choice. You can either keep fighting, try something new, or you can just be defeated, right?
Yeah.
I wonder, and it can be very, very difficult and challenging if your mindset's sort of so orientated on success.
Yes.
So I wonder, how did you cope with those defeats, and how that sort of mindset that you've got now has developed over time?
I would say it was when I decided to just chase not what society wanted. It really put me into perspective of, I guess, where I was psychologically. I think 1 in 3 people suffer from depression worldwide, and I was going through that phase a lot, and I didn't know that. And so it became easier. The easier path was to follow what society wanted, because I was so unaware of my own emotions that it kind of entrapped me to follow what society wanted, because I couldn't really look myself in the eye and say, okay, this is what I actually want. So I think emotional recognition was something I had to work on. And once I became more aware of myself, I started, I did that through multiple things like meditation. I started meditating like every single day. It was such a pain in the ass when I first started, because my mind would just think all the bloody time, you know. But then I started looking into this. I read a book called Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. It's a powerful book. That one book changed my life, because I realized that your mind is either focused on the past focused on the past, and that causes depression, or you're focused on the future, which causes anxiety. And so if you're able to recognize when you're thinking and then just come back to the present moment, you have complete control of yourself. You're not over here thinking, oh, what I'm going to do next after this podcast, or what I'm going to eat. You're just right here in the present moment, absorbing everything. And that's one of the most powerful tools that I learned to recognize. Because I think the main enemy that everyone has is their thoughts and themselves. And that's what I think changed a lot for me.
Yeah, big time. I wonder, because coming back to that as well, it was like you you sort of noticed it, and then you read these books. But I think for a lot of us, right, because we have that ego, it's so easy to think, oh, okay, other people are depressed. Like you didn't even notice it, right? Oh,
Correct.
I'm not depressed. Like, what's that?
Yeah,
And you don't think, because of your ego.
yeah.
Again, it's your own thoughts that cause these issues, right? It's like, okay, why? I don't need to do that. But I wonder how can people get there? Do you think it's a case of they just need to hit that rock
Rock
bottom?
bottom.
They need to hit that in order to change?
Rock bottom, real rock bottom. I hit a massive rock bottom. I think I got a really tough relationship for 3 years during that time as well. Didn't get the job promotion I wanted. I was locked down, isolated. Looked myself in the mirror. I was fat. I was just unhealthy. I didn't see a happy person whenever I looked in the mirror. And, you know, I think one of the main things is I realize is, what do you think about before you sleep at night? And what does it feel like when you wake up in the morning? Are you depressed? Are you thinking about all these constant things that you can't control, or you're just sad about life? Or are you actually excited to go to sleep and wake up and ready for the next day? I think it was a combination of things which just put me at rock bottom, absolute rock bottom. And then I think one of the main quotes which helped me got through that, it was like, the night is darkest right before dawn. So it means that, you know, it's pitch black at night right before the sun comes up. And so, you know, I didn't think I can sink any lower. I thought I could, but I didn't think in that moment I couldn't sink any lower. And so, you know, that's where, because I'm already down, right, I was like, this is the time where I can rebuild my entire life. And that's where it started.
Because you have that breathing room. And it's interesting because you were saying your corporate job before wasn't really serving you.
No.
But I feel like a lot of people, they perhaps haven't hit rock bottom yet. Again, I can't speak for everyone.
Yeah.
But I get the feeling like a lot of people, they're not at that rock bottom stage. They're kind of just there, just above it. But yet they're getting an income in and they're working. That's what's right for them at that point, and that's what they think is right. So I guess the message would be, no matter where you are, because the reality is, I think, no matter where you are in life, you can always be on that path of self-development. I think that would be sort of the key takeaway there, is like, you know, even if you think life's fantastic, just keep on reading these fantastic books. You've listed like a great example there. I think just to keep on going and just don't neglect that part, I think.
I think one of the main things that I realized is that this world is so consumed about money. I think that's one of the main detriments to the younger society right now, and I think all of society, to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong, the whole world operates with money. Everyone needs money, right? But the sole purpose of everyday's life is becoming money. And as a result, right, people are looking to go to university to get a degree for the highest paying job. It's not about looking themselves in the mirror and like, hey, I actually like helping people. Maybe I should become a nurse or a doctor. It's not like that. It's like, okay, you know, software engineers make 300K a year or something. Let's go there. That's what everyone's doing right now. And it doesn't help because, you know, things are getting more expensive. Properties are getting more expensive. And, you know, they're kind of forced in that routine and that pathway. But I think if they start to developing their own values as an individual and develop a moral compass of their own identity, I think that's when they'll realize things will start to change. And for yourself, right, I think one of the things is learning discipline, right? I think one of the main things that we need more is discipline, and you can do that through what you do, wrestling, right?
That's it.
Wrestling, BJJ recently. I was doing Muay Thai before. I was training at the gym for like 5 years. Ever since I was fat, tried running marathons, things like that.
Awesome.
It was all like a discipline concept I had to redevelop. And once you have that discipline, then you can actually fortify your own values and
And you have
stick to
that,
them.
and you build that self-belief as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You start to build confidence in yourself because you're not second guessing your. A lot of people can listen to the mind, right? But then there's also like your gut feeling and your heart,
Yes.
which is a different feeling that people are not accustomed to. And I feel like it's the money talks to the head, but then what you feel that you need to do is something more important because it becomes like a passion that you haven't seeked yet.
Yeah, I mean, one of the ideas I'm intrigued by, because I agree wholeheartedly with what you've said, but then a lot of people, yeah, will be listening and think like, okay, yeah, I'm doing a software development of 300K a year, but it feeds me, my family, and that's all that matters because the family is the most important thing. I do think there's an argument to be made that, okay, let's knuckle down for a bit, let's build this career, and then once I've built up enough money, then I can pursue my side interest, or they can do a side hustle, which is their actual passion, and then eventually use the money they've earned from that to that side hustle. Although I think the issue comes when you become too comfortable with that lifestyle and then your
Correct.
dreams and your values get neglected, I suppose.
This is a very interesting topic because in Sydney, I see friends, family who are very successful in their own career path. And they do exactly what you said, right? They work really hard. They're now like 30 or late 30s, 40, early 40s. They have a house, they have family, they have kids. They've got everything and a high paying job, right? But then when it comes to pivoting now, that mountain's so high.
Because their costs are higher as well. They've built up this
Expense.
lifestyle, right?
Yeah, exactly. Expenses are high, costs are there. The mountain they've climbed already is so high that, you know, maybe they don't realize that it might be just a level of regret. Like, I think a lot of people, I used to hang around older people, like a lot of like elderly gentlemen, like, because I really wanted to find out how it is to be old, like 60, 70-year-olds. You know, sometimes I go play poker with them, or I'll be at the doctor's, doctor's sitting down, and I'll just have a chat with them. And I ask them, do you guys have any regrets? And they're like, one too many. They tell me one too many. And I'm like, why? It's like, because I just never decided to do what I wanted to do. I just was just content with what they do, what they're doing. And so I get that, building that comfort lifestyle for their family, but you have to also recognize, I guess, the different cycles or periods of life you're in. So we're still young, right? We're still, right before 30 and stuff like that. We have time to kind of make mistakes during this time. We're not at a period where we can give to other people. I mean, there's like a very small percentage that can do that, and they need to do that, which is, I get that's really tough. But then there's also us. We're fortunate. We come from a Western country. We have a good education. We've come, we had a roof on our heads. We had good food. But it also gives us the privilege to actually think for ourselves and actually find the purpose or the thing that can put us in the right trajectory that we desire. So that's what I think it is. And then the next 10 to 20 years, it's about building that. Because I've done some stupid shit in my 20s. Don't get me wrong.
That's what the 20s are for.
20s are all about doing stupid shit, but then learning from them and not doing such stupid shit that you don't, go to jail, you lose an arm, just, you die or something, I think the next 10 to 20 years now is, okay, because now I've tried so many things, I now understand what I like and dislike. But everyone just goes, okay, high school, university. Very short trajectory, a very short time in choosing a life decision at such a young age. You don't even know what you want once you come out of high school.
No idea.
No idea, right?
Unless you do get some people who are like, yeah, I want to be a doctor, which is awesome, and they're set on that path, and
Yeah.
or maybe it's law, but it's a small minority.
It's a small minority now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think really it's really difficult right now because everyone's put on a short trajectory. You got to do this, you got to do that, and then by the time you're 30, life slows. But I feel like for me, life begins at 30. Because now I've tried so many things. I know what I like. I know what I don't like,
Mm.
and how can I create a lifestyle which makes me happy. And so the next 10 to 20 years is building that, and then afterwards, I think that's when you start giving to others. And obviously, you can have your family on board and stuff, and that's where you can provide to them. But that's the way I see things, to be honest.
Yeah, and I feel like, especially in your 20s, I think like it's so overwhelming because there is so much advice out there, right? It's
Mm.
like, yeah, okay, you should knuckle down, you should build your career, or it's like, you were saying the entrepreneurial route, there might be pressure to do that,
Yeah.
but then there's also traveling as well and getting outside of that bubble
Yeah.
and just exploring different things. I think the main message that I got from that was there is no right answer, but the important thing is just try it as much as possible. Just do so much shit and just see where it takes you. Just say yes to everything, try different stuff out, and then, of course, yeah, there would be some instances where you're like, okay, you know what? I love law. I love the
Mm.
idea of this. Okay, I'm
Exactly.
just going to focus in on that. Then fantastic. In your instance, you're just saying, just try everything and see, try and get that. I know you mentioned that sort of bodily feeling, that body feeling that you had, that something's right or wrong. Is that sort of your intuition you're saying that speaks to you?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think emotions are a very pinnacle part of life. You can't negate emotions. I think I grew up in a very Asian household, and we always neglect emotions. It's all about hard work.
Mm.
Don't worry, disregard your emotions. They don't mean anything. But I realized that when you listen to your emotions, they're actually a trigger for things. It's actually a reaction to the environment that you're in. So just say you're sad, right? You're feeling sad, but you go to work and you disregard that. That emotion will continue to build up until you recognize it and address it. So you got to see, okay, why am I sad? I'm sad because I had an argument with my girlfriend. Let me rectify this, and then we can both depart from this, this sadness. Or you're angry. Why are you angry? Oh, because this guy pushed in line at the airport or something, and
Mm.
you don't like people cutting in line or something. Like all these things are like triggers for your mind to like emotions are triggered in your mind, and I feel like it's how do I say this? Um, I think being attuned to your emotions is very important because once you recognize these emotions, you can process it quicker and then alleviate it. So even for like a business or like you do wrestling or something, right? Just say you have a setback or something, you actually have to emotionally recognize it and emotionally overcome that setback. It's like, well, you told me like the last couple of days you kind of tore your grind muscle, right? Or was it hip flexor?
Yeah, it's like a thigh strain.
Like fly strain, right?
Yeah, that's it.
That physically hurts you, right? But it also emotionally hurts you as well because you're like, shit, how long am I gonna do this for?
Oh, it's gutting. Yeah.
It's gutting, right? So once you go through the therapy, go through the motions of getting back to normal, you also have to emotionally and mentally get back to that stage so that you're on par with your mental and physical and emotional state so that you can be 100% to go forward. So that's why I think recognizing emotions is
And
very
owning
important.
it as well, right?
Yes.
Because it's just so easy, like you said, in your sort of household and upbringing, it was like, okay, we shut off from emotions. My father is the same. I think that was just the way they grew up.
Yeah.
Because my grandma, she had to flee Nazi Germany. All of her family sort of died in the Holocaust.
Oh, no
And
way.
so it was her and her brother survived, and they managed to escape to England. And that's why we're here today, which is amazing in and of itself. But I think she had to, I presume, sort of shut off like she just couldn't feel anything, right? Because it's like, how do you even process that? It's
Yes.
unfathomable.
Yeah.
And then I think, yeah, obviously that a different time as well, right? It's not like the modern age, but I feel like, yeah, my dad as well. It kind of meant now I notice it in him. He's such a lovely guy, but for him to he doesn't really process emotions or anything. It's just like sweep things under the rug,
It
and
just goes, yeah,
it's
acts like
just
nothing, blindsided.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
it,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. And I think there is an argument that okay, that kind of can work if you're pursuing a certain sort of like career path, or you need to sort of shut off those emotions, right? But then, and you might succeed. I think it might be a successful strategy.
Yes.
But then, like we were saying before, I think you are getting further and further away from who you really are.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're not feeling those emotions, then you're not allowing the universe almost to sort of direct you on the path
Guide
that you want to be.
Yes, correct. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's
That's so crazy because my family, my dad's side, actually had to flee China as well because of the communist regime coming through,
okay.
and so um, yeah, they fled to Vietnam, and as a result, I think they probably saw some pretty crazy stuff along the way, along that journey, and that's why they emotionally shut off. But I think Chinese people in general aren't very attuned with their emotions as well. So it's like a double whammy. It just piles up. But yeah, that's very interesting that you say that. I think in the older generations, they didn't have the consideration or the information to recognize emotions.
No.
So it's very interesting that you recognize these things as well, because I think understanding your emotions is one of the key things to success in life.
And
Yeah, because of
yeah.
frequency. Frequency, it's energy is frequency. Your body is made up of little atoms, and they're all connected together due to frequency. And so whatever frequency you're vibrating at, that will attract other people into your life, right?
100%.
So don't even, we met at Tribal Co-working Hostel. You were just sitting there, chilling. I just decided to randomly have a conversation with you. I don't know why. Out of like 50 people, I just decided to have a chat with you. And it's little things like that. It's because of the frequency. It's not because of anything else, but I think that comes down to emotions as well.
Yeah, because you're like you said, you attract what you put out there, right? It's like if you're always sort of thinking negatively and have this negative conversation, you're going to have more negative people enter your life.
Exactly.
I think, but I think coming back, we're talking like, okay, in your instance, it's Australia, mine's sort of the UK. For like a lot of people, they feel as though they can't really change their environment, or maybe they don't get on well with a family member, or they might not even realise, but their friends are sort of keeping them at a lower frequency.
Yes.
Perhaps. I was wondering if you had any insight into like how you can notice that perhaps those people around you don't really serve you.
Yeah.
And sort of how you can change your environment, because a lot of people think, well, I've got no savings, I've dropped out of university, I can't really change my environment, and I don't have any other friends apart from these guys who they put me down and stuff, but they go to a pub with me on a Friday night. I mean, tricky, right? I mean, I don't know if you had any sort of observation with that, or how people can positively change their environment, perhaps.
That's a very good question, because I think environment dictates a lot of behavior of how you are as an individual. Whether it's you're hanging with people who work a 9 to 5, or people who love the footy, just go to footy on Friday nights just to watch it, sports, wrestling, you name it. And I think some people are very privileged to have good parents. I think good parents will teach you how to put yourself in the right environment, how to have good relationships, or how to attract good relationships in your life, as well as knowing what you want. I think, that's number one thing, having good parents. And a lot of people are not fortunate enough to have that, They're not, some parents are always dictating what you should do. And so as a result, that's a psychological deficit to you as you get older, because you always listen about what other people would want you to do.
And it's done out of love, right? They
It's
do it
done
out
out
of
of
love.
love. It's
right?
done out of love, but
Yeah.
then they don't realize that you kind of limiting their potential as individuals. I think that's number one thing, that parenting is, shapes a very high successful number of individuals. Now the second part is probably you probably have to have that self-recognition. That comes back to that emotions or understanding. You wake up every morning, or you go bed at night feeling sad or something. You got to recognize that, and then you got to act upon those emotions. I think for me, I didn't have much money when I stopped working. I just threw a bunch of darts and just tried as many things as possible with the most limited number of resources as possible. And then that's when I realized, okay, if I really want to change my life, I do need money, and as a result, I need to find like a skill set or a job which I can work for the next 1 to 2 years to save enough so that I can completely change my environment. And so that's what I did. I worked for maybe 2-3 years, saved up a bunch of money, did some investments, did pretty well for me, and as a result, now I can do what I want. And I think a lot of people can live this remote lifestyle, right? You can just learn a skill, not any type of skill, but high demand skills right now, which you can work anywhere in the world. So I was talking to a friend of mine who works at Tribal. He was making, I think 4 to 5 digits a month from, how do I say this? He created Spotify playlists. He was creating Spotify playlists and gaining followers on his playlists, and eventually DJs or people around like clubs and stuff would want to use his playlist, and then he started selling them to them.
Wow. So created playlists essentially.
Yeah. And he was making money from that.
Yeah.
And another guy I met, he was at Tribal. He was he created like a security business in the Netherlands. So I think he buys products from all around Asia, creates his own brand, and just resells it in the Netherlands for a premium. Another guy creates YouTube videos. Another guy, edits videos. There's all these different skills that you can learn, and you can choose one of them. I think right now the internet's very valuable in the sense that you can pick up other like social media marketing, or like even just video editing, or data analysis or something. Do that for 6 months, and you can work anywhere in the world. That's literally as easy as that. And then once you can change, I think there's like 3 parts to this. I think the number one thing, if you want to really change who you are as an individual, is the environment. So you got to go to places, put yourself in a position where people are actually wanting to personally develop and grow. People are on a journey. If you hang around people who aren't on a journey, they're just stagnating. They're not going anywhere in life.
Not serving you, right?
It's not really serving me, or you, but it's more about serving themselves to be the best person they want to be.
Right. Okay.
And I feel that was very limiting in Sydney as well, because everyone, I don't want to say this, but I felt like Sydney wasn't the same Sydney it was 10 to 20 years ago. It wasn't as lively as it was. The people were a community, but nowadays I feel like it's so fragmented and so expensive that people only look out for themselves in Sydney, so they don't have time for you or me. We can't have I wouldn't have a conversation with you, if we were in Sydney.
Yeah.
You'll be like, bugger off, mate. Like I've got a bus to catch. I've got work to do. You won't have these conversations with like everyday people around.
I feel like that with London a little bit as well. I was telling you. It's that sort of disconnect as well. I think just between sort of our home countries as well. Like, don't get me wrong. we're super fortunate to have been able to grow up there. And I mean, wow, like, you know, some people, I was saying this the other day, people born into like fucking North Korea, and you know, I mean, it's just yeah, super privileged. But then now that we have that privilege to sort of change our environment, I think it's just if you feel a disconnect back home, like you said, I think the natural thing to do is just look elsewhere. And like you said, you know, you come to Bali, you go to that, you know, you go to travel and you meet all these really inspiring people. And when you put yourself into that environment, it's like, I mean, the world's your oyster, right? It's like all these inspiring people around you. You compare that to, again, this is a generalization, but let's say in this example, you know, back home, it's like everyone's just like
Nonchalant, just like it's
just
going day to day type of
yeah,
thing, right?
and you know, there's you know, and for some people that works for them, right? And they're happy. And I don't think there's a particular for them that's the right thing to do, and that's cool. But if you don't want that, then if you and you're staying around the same group of people, then naturally it's going to be a lot harder for you to sort of change your environment. So I think it really takes a period of sort of reflection. It's like, okay, right, these are great guys, but if they're happy doing their own thing and they have a different mindset, okay, it doesn't mean you have to, you know, break off contact and have like an emotional goodbye and shit. You know, it's like, you know, it's just all right. They'll still be there, but you've got other aspirations. You've got to go, and then if you surround yourself by positive thinking people and people who inspire you, then naturally your thought processes are going to change, your frequency is going to change, and you can just make it what you want, really.
Well, I feel like this world is a lot of people are playing checkers, but this world's turned into like a entire like 3D chess game, where it's not just, I think, beforehand things were too expensive or people were limited through like without internet or mobiles beforehand. You can't travel anywhere in the world and be still connected with the same people. With the internet and the internet access, I think it completely changed the game, especially when COVID happened. People were locked down, you know, for yourself, right? You're in, it's not sunny London, right? It's just, it's always raining for you guys.
Well, I was fortunate during COVID because I was my mum and dogs and stepdad, they all live in Marbella.
Oh, right.
So I was just there with my sisters, and
Chilling.
it's funny because another guy, my friend Tim, who I had on the show as well, he was saying how lockdown was a real sort of low point, and that was one of the factors that made him sort of look at himself a lot. Again, you know, coming back to that sort of rock bottom feeling. But yeah, I think for me, it was just once the world stopped, you kind of had a chance to, you know, really reflect. And I started my business then as well.
Nice.
You know, it's a similar story. And that was just a chance to, okay, what do I really want to do? And while you're not playing catch up with the rest of the world, and you're not busy, it's like, okay, right, cool. What do I really, really want to do? And I think I would sort of encourage people, I presume you'd be similar, to, you know, take that step back in real life, right? Just take that step back, evaluate, okay, who are the people you spend the most time with? What are they doing? Do I like my environment? What do I want to do? What skill set do I have? What reality do I want to make my life, really?
And just following, just think about all the people that you want to be. What are they doing and where are they now? That's what I thought about when I left. And a lot of them are traveling. They don't have one residual geographic location where they just stay there. They're always on the move. They're always going to a different country, either for work, for personal, or whatever. But I've realized all the people who are like very sharp and open-minded are always constantly traveling. Because it really opens yourself, because you're always meeting new individuals. And coming back to what I was saying, like how the playing field's completely changed, right? All the digital nomads or people who can work remotely are all coming to different areas now because they realize they can work wherever they want in the world. coming to what? Thailand, Bali, Tokyo, Malaysia, even into, Europe as well. Like there's specific like hotspots when where you can meet these people who are nomads or entrepreneurs and just living life to the complete fullest. And I wouldn't understand that if I didn't come to Bali, right? I didn't see that much in Phuket. It was more like an older generation of people who have family and kids. They have really, sustained businesses, and now they're just gonna settle down there. But Bali's like is where the vibrant young individuals, hungry individuals are ready to start, I guess, paving an identity for themselves going forward. And that's what I thought about, where can you find the people that you want to be, and what are they doing, and follow where they go.
And I think it's important to mention as well, you don't, even though I'm a huge advocate for travel just for the reasons you mentioned, but I feel like you can do this back home as well. So BJJ, for example, my jiu-jitsu gym back home, wow, just such an incredible environment. I know just walking in there and the conversations you have with people, and everyone's there for the same reason, right? To just get better at BJJ, better themselves, but then everyone's very welcoming, they'll help you, and then you chat to them after.
Yeah.
And it's like when you find something or a community, same thing with pro wrestling as well that I do, it's like, wow, okay, these people share the same interests as me. And I think coming out of school and university as well, eventually you lose this fear, right? But there's this like fear of judgment, and I feel like a lot of people don't do things or they're very self-conscious. It's like, I mean, like think of pro wrestling, for example. I'm literally wearing shiny trunks.
Yeah.
I'm wearing shiny trunks. I'm dancing, and I'm in a room with other, sweaty men. It's
men,
like, yeah, it's ridiculous, right? But it's like, of course, I think, naturally, if you just sort of come out of school and you're like, oh, if I do this, everyone's gonna think it's weird. Oh, pro wrestling's fake. Like, what a loser. Like, nah, I fucking love it. And then guess what? I go to pro wrestling, I go to the training, and everyone else is there to do this dumb shit as well.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, this is like my people.
Yeah.
It's like, these are my people. We could all be fucking weird together. It's
Exactly.
like, it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And same thing with BJJ as well. It's like you find people who have your interest. Suddenly you're not the odd one out in the group anymore. You're all
Correct.
a collective. So I just thought that was important to mention there. Like you can do that at home as well.
At home as well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's a very good point, and yeah, it must have been strange for you to come up like having a dream or a desire to go into pro wrestling, right? Like you started at like a young age, or
No, it was a weird one because I'd always been a sort of pro wrestling fan, and then I sat down with a friend of my mum's actually, and he was the only pro wrestling fan I could find.
Yeah.
Because once you get into the pro wrestling community, there's like tons of nerds like myself, right? But to actually find someone just in a casual conversation, it's like they might go, oh yeah, that like stuff back in the day with like The Rock, and they might know of it, but to find an actual wrestling fan is super difficult. But yeah, I got talking to him, and he was like, this was back when I was at uni, and he said, oh, there's a wrestling school called House of Pain. It's like 10 minutes from your uni. And I was like, okay, that sounds so fun. So went to one open day, absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Such an incredible team there.
yeah.
And just got involved from there really. And then you start sort of going to the beginner classes and you learn how to bump and fall properly and give all these moves. And then eventually, my uni tenancy ran out. So then I started training back in London through a recommendation at Burridge Fight Design. And then naturally you start getting sort of booked for promotions and that type of thing. And that's where it's like, I think that was the pivotal moment for me because at first it was just a hobby, something fun. And then you start getting booked for promotions. Again, I'm super early on in my wrestling career, but once you start getting booked, you're like, ooh, okay, this is really cool. And you get caught up in the moment sometimes because I remember my first match, it was okay, but I felt like I could have done better. But then I sort of, I think I sent a video to a family member, or my dad, I think he forwarded it to our family group chat. And one of my sisters was like, he's literally living his childhood dream. And then when she said that, even though it was like a kind of half jokey comment, I was like, I actually am.
Yeah.
Like this is actually what I dreamed of doing as a kid, and it was just I think just that comment was like okay, like yeah, it's and then I saw as well it's so easy to be distracted by the results. Like okay, you want a perfect match, you want to, and it's just a never ending spiral, right?
Yeah.
Whereas at that moment I was like, I'm just living my dream, like that's it. And if while it's important to have goals and ambitions, I think it's important to just sort of savor the moment as well.
Correct.
A bit like in your instance, you were like, starting something and it wouldn't work out. But it's like, if you always sort of focus on that end goal, you're never going to be content. But if you embrace the journey at all the
Absolutely.
different stages, then I think you'll get a lot more sort of satisfaction out of that.
Yeah, of course, right? Because you're not always chasing. There's always a bigger reward or a bigger carrot that everyone chases after this. You finish with one. So, I think learning to understand that the journey is the reward.
Mm.
I think, and choosing that journey is the hardest part, right? But then
Yeah.
once you're on that journey and you embark on it, you feel like everything just, all systems are go. You just feel like things are working to the way you think life should be. And it feels good in your mind, in your heart, in your soul, and you just know that. You just know that.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to ask you this: when you came to Bali, did you feel that type of energy when you came to Bali? Like,
Same as yeah. I did, especially. I think especially when I went to sort of Bali MMA as well, and I started doing jiu-jitsu there.
yeah,
It's like the feel around there. It's like it's awesome. Like you're just surrounded by people who just love grappling. And obviously the Thai boxers as well. And like you said at Chopper, you meet people and they're like, oh yeah, I run my own business. I've just quit my job. I'm a founder now. It's like yeah, there's that sort of special factor. And even doing jiu-jitsu, it's like everyone's there and everyone's just having fun. It's such a great place. And you go to these co-working places and yeah, it's obviously quite sort of early on in my sort of Bali journey, but it's so motivating, and I feel like you're almost living. They call it like Paradise Island, right? Because it's you wake up, the sun's shining. The Balinese people are super friendly, so
absolutely.
friendly. They're amazing,
Yeah.
and they believe in like good karma and passing that on. And you're riding your motorbike and you come here, and it's just, I mean, and I remember. My shaman back in the day, he said something along the lines of like, people talk about heaven and hell, but we're living in heaven right now, and it's like he kind of has a point. You can make anything a reality, and I'm like, well, I'm reflecting now. It's like I wake up, I do a bit of reading, go to jiu-jitsu, then I have a protein shake, I write my jiu-jitsu journal. And then there'll be like maybe there's a mobility class as well, and then I'll go to a co-working place, and I'll go back. I'll have go out for dinner with my girlfriend, something like that. And I'm like, what more do you want?
Exactly,
It's like that's just wicked. It's just and amazing food. It's like this. What more could you possibly want? It's it's really sort of. I think once you have the outlook on life. It's like, what if you're in heaven right now and you're making a mess of it? I think we're fortunate enough in our age bracket where we have the opportunity to make that our reality.
No, that's well said, and it seems like, I don't know if it's the psychedelics or like, but it's like there's a mind shift change. Like I think me and you both share this, is the idea of like having a positive feedback mechanism to the world. We don't look at things as bad. We can, but then we always have a positive outlook for our own, end goal, or like this day to day, and that keeps us in such a great state of mind, which I think a lot of people neglect. And
in terms of sort of just looking forward to life, do you think?
Yeah, well, enjoying their day to day life.
Right, and just getting pleasure out of the small things,
yeah, just
perhaps.
at its core, like no one appreciates these little things. Like I think first thing I'll do is I'll wake up, I'll meditate, and then I'll think of like three things that I'm like grateful for.
You and me both, brother.
Yeah, man. I think it's so powerful because you train your mind how to think gratefully, not, oh crap, it's raining today. Oh shit, my clothes are wet this morning. Man, this guy that's kept snoring in my room. Like, you're not thinking about things. You're conditioning yourself to like think in a positive and graceful way, and it does miracles. And I don't know where'd you cultivate that? Because it's very interesting the way you just explained everything. Like, no one can have perfect. Like, I don't know. Like, 50% of people have pleasure. The way you just explained your day.
Yeah, I mean, I think people might listen to that and think, oh, you're in Bali, of course you're going to enjoy your day. But to point out as well, it's like in London, it's like, yeah, it didn't suit my soul and it wasn't right for my soul, right? I don't mind waking up early, but it's like, okay, am I waking up early for a purpose? And I think, yeah, there were times where sort of I was in work and I'm like, okay, is this really what I want to be doing? And yeah, I think those are the times where you kind of can lose some of that magic, but then, it's like sprinkled throughout the day. I'm like, okay, you know what? There were times during the day where I felt a bit meh, but I get to do jujitsu. I get to spend time with my dad. It's like all these amazing things. And I think, like you said, the gratitude practice is so important because it sort of, you kind of just reflect, and it's like a lot of these stuff we take a lot of stuff for granted.
Absolutely.
And it's like, if you get ill suddenly, you kind of forget what it's like to be healthy again. And yeah, it's like if you got a blocked nose, you forget what it's like to have like a clear nose. It's like all these things, and if you just like take a moment, it's like, okay, right, great. My back doesn't hurt today, and it takes practice. But again, it comes back to changing your environment. Because it is, I think it can, even though it can be done, I think it is very, very advanced to be able to stay in an environment that doesn't serve you and stay positive. I think eventually, because there's an energy exchange every time you talk to someone and that type of thing, right?
Yes.
And if you're exposing yourself to all these like negative energies, of course it's going to take some of you away.
Yes.
So it's like if you put me in a like good environment, an environment that serves my soul, then yeah, I'm going to get so much joy out of it. And yeah, it is that sort of plant medicine experiences as well, because it is through those that you realize, okay, all this other stuff, all this noise, like you said, the work, money, it's like at your core, the soul doesn't give a shit about that.
No.
It doesn't.
Absolutely.
And it's like, when you take away all of that, it's like, all right. And it's always the same messages that come up, it's just so much love and it's just so much gratitude. And just thinking about, I remember sort of my grandma, just how loving she is. And like you're saying about parents, so fortunate to have the parents that I did. It's like, how can you not be so grateful for that? And it's about keeping in tune with that. It comes down to your core. It's like the people in your life, your most important people, how are you treating them?
Yes.
And are you, okay, what's your relationship like with, okay, your sister, have you checked in with her in a while? No, let's send her a message. Same as your friends as well, staying connected to the ones that matter. And those are the real things that serve us, I think. And I think just staying in tune with that. And like you said, just having that sort of self-reflection as well. It's like, okay, what are the most important things in my life, and like truly important?
Yeah.
Like truly important. And okay, what am I neglecting? But it's also important, like you said, because I think it'd be misleading to suggest that I'm like super happy all the time. I think you've got to, but when I do get those angry days now, it's like, oh, okay, right, I'm angry today. Let's not shy away from it.
Yeah, let's address it.
Let's just address it, and then just lean into that a bit more.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Of course, you're never going to take it out on other people. You learn to sort of regulate them. But it's like, okay, you're going to direct that to something. So whether it's jiu-jitsu or hitting the pads or hitting the gym, and it's like directing that energy somewhere else. So it's not, of course, we still get those days where it's like, okay, I didn't sleep right. There were all these fucking mosquitoes, biting my ass. It's like all of this type of thing. but it's like, okay, just embracing it, still going through that gratitude practice, because it's like, if you're grateful, then how are you going to just wallow in this? How are you going to stay in that certain state of mind as well? I think it was, again, that mindfulness practice. It's like, rather than feeling the emotion, I think you can almost like label it as an emotion. So it's like, rather than feeling the anger, you still acknowledge it, but it's like
You're
anger.
labeling it
You
and
label
then
it, right?
taking it out of yourself or something, in a sense, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you kind of just take a step back, and I'm still working on it, man. It's like
Yeah, it's a never-ending journey.
I'm certainly not a fucking stoic.
You're not zenned out yet.
Yeah, I'm trying.
You're
So
trying,
I'm
but
trying,
it's
but
tough. It's
it
tough.
is, and that's why Ryan Holiday's The Daily Stoic is a great one. Just has a daily excerpt every day about stoicism, and then sort of a paragraph
Yeah.
explaining it. Yeah, really great book, and it's just like, if you do those small habits every day, and I think, coming back to what we were saying before, I think, because a lot of people, it seems like a lot, like, start that online course, or, oh yeah, oh okay, it's easy, yeah, 6 months, you start a course, yeah, sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
But it's like, you don't just start, like, one day at a time. Just like, okay, cool, you start this course, just start off, because I know it can be very tricky if you've not in that routine to just like suddenly start something.
Start something
It can be
correct,
overwhelming,
yes.
right?
Yeah, of course.
But it's like, just do a little thing what can you do every single day that compounds over time,
Yes.
as you'd know. But yeah, it's like, okay, right, I can do my gratitude practice every day. I can do this every day. And I can do one page of this. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but over time, it's like, that is the key, I think, just having that consistency and showing up for yourself. And
You spoke the
yeah.
words out of my mouth. I was thinking of the word compounding this whole time. I was just thinking about it beforehand when you were talking about, think about the people that matter to you. And that's so important, because I think life is all about compounding. The relationships you have, right? If you keep good people around you and always compound that, that interest or the return from just holding those relationships are like infinitely better than having so many, like, hundreds of relationships were just, I guess, surface level relationships, and that goes back to also the concept of starting a business. People are so hard, like, hard on themselves, like, all right, I'm gonna, like, first 6 months I'm gonna do 6 digits in revenue, whatever, and then scale it to $1 million. I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. It's like, okay, what skills, what people do you need, and how could you do something every single day where you can make it a routine and eventually start to navigate and dive deeper and deeper till you start seeing those results you want. And that's all about compounding. And I think that's very neglected. People just jump in balls deep, think they can do it in 2 days, and then they just burn out and quit. It's like, no wonder why you quit.
Well, you just want that instant gratification,
Instant,
right? Instant success.
exactly. They're looking for instant gratification, and they haven't trained themselves to do something disciplined. You get yourself in the gym, do that every day, no matter the circumstance, that falls into everyday life. So once you turn up and you do want to start that business, just start 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day, nothing more, nothing less, and then continue to do that. You do that for 7 days, that's quite a bit of time you spent on it. And then it continues, and after 1 year, next thing you know it, I can do this for like 2 or 3 hours a day now, because I actually built up. It's like, how do I say this? If you like studied something, right? Just say we studied psychedelics. We have no clue what the word psychedelics mean, or like the type of shrooms there is, what type of trips you can have and stuff like that. We don't know, clue. So, if you spend a whole day studying psychedelics straight off the bat, you're going to be like, shit, this is so exhausting. But you start like 30 minutes every day, just reading it. I think it's so much easier to consume and compound over time. But yeah, random random example, but
Well, yeah, I mean, people have, and even on that note as well, you get so many people who, yeah, they write books just 13 minutes a day and just adding to it over and over and over. It's that's sort of the biggest message. The Slight Edge is such a motivating book. I tell all my friends to read it. Exactly what you've explained, like the compound effect and why only, I think it's like, what, 1% of people achieve their goals. It's because of a slight edge, because they've done that work over and over and over and over and over. But yeah, so much to learn. Yeah, I think we're, done quite a lot just now, which is really cool. I think coming up to an hour. But yeah, this has been so much, I think so much that people can sort of take away from this. What an awesome guest. We'll have to do like a part 2 at some stage.
Yeah,
if
for
you're up
sure,
for
man.
it.
Oh, well, that's if we're around, right?
That's
If you don't come
we'll
Melbourne, that's in. We'll see what happens, right?
See what happens, man.
See if we're sticking around, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I appreciate the talk, man. I think this really opened up myself and learned a bit more about yourself as you know, not even just how we talk, but just frequency, just little things like that. It's just great. Astonishing, right?
It's really, really great.
Yeah.
So cool. What we like, I think the way I like to sort of finish a podcast as well. Again, it's putting you on the spot a bit, but it's asking you for a song suggestion for the audience. What's a song that's resonating with you for the time being?
A song suggestion.
Yeah, it's.
Oh gosh, that's a tough one.
Feel free to take your time. I think, one of the reasons I like it is because I think it kind of reveals a bit about, someone's personality a little bit.
Yeah.
Or it could just be just something that's a good tune, really.
Yeah, no, well, lately I've been doing a bit of deep work. So I've been listening to like a bit of trance or, so like maybe some Armin van Buuren.
Nice.
Yeah. I listen to his, when I do like deep work for like 2 to 3 hour sessions, I like to listen to some Armin van Buuren. Yeah.
Wow. Any favorite in particular, or?
Not in particular. Nothing that can come up to my mind right now. Let me take a look real quick.
Yeah, man, go for it. I think eventually I'm just going to get a playlist of all these bangers that people have
that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
I think Armin van Buuren's good. Also, Burned with Desire. That's
Burn with Desire.
Burned with Desire.
It's interesting, working with that, because I'm still trying to find that nice balance, because it's like you can't listen to songs that, I don't know, I find with lyrics, obviously you get sort of, it kind of jumbles up your brain a bit.
Yeah, it does.
But then you want, I don't know, I quite like, obviously the lofi tech's good, but then, but I think that, Chancy stuff would be pretty cool as well.
Yeah, no, I used to do that, but then lo-fi like just gets a bit bland sometimes, you know, so you got to change it up and whatnot, so yeah. Cool.
Yeah, all right, awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. Where can people sort of find you? Do you have, is it an Instagram handle or LinkedIn, anything like that?
Yeah, well, I use Instagram. My handle's Kyeuns, Kyeuns, and lately I've been using X a lot. I think X is an amazing platform that people should start using. In the next 5 to 10 years, I think it's going to be the largest platform that everyone's going to be flocked to. I think they're going to put a banking system onto it. So it's going to be similar to like WeChat, where everything that you do, you can pay by phone, just via the app. So everything that you do on X, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, I reckon it's all going to be on X, and everything's going to be done through a payment system on it. So it's going to be a massive platform. My handle on X is OXKYE. So give me a follow if you like trading, and I usually post stuff on that.
Okay, wicked. Yeah, I shall be giving you a follow, man. And thank you so much for coming on. It's been awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. My pleasure.